The deeper and deeper I go, I find what it is I should know. 'Cause it's just a matter of time that you'll reawaken your mind. Oh, come with me, come to know and find out what is true. Then you'll know what's in store just for you. No more living a life I can look to the sky and say, I'm reawakening minds. To know and find out what is truth, yes. Then you'll know what's in store just for you. No more living a lie. I can look to the sky and say, I'm reawakening minds.
Happy Holy Day, Moors. Welcome to House of Reawakening Minds. House of Reawakening Minds exists to provide for the exploration and practice of spirituality in an enlightened community dedicated to honoring the myriad of sacred pathways to the universal creator. We are an awakening center for spiritual grounding, free thought, self discovery, and warrior science, a learning experience for all ages. Tonight, our National Grand Sheik Taj Tarik Bey and I are pleased to present part two of Yacoub's or Jacob's ladder, the unholy reality of the hybridization experiments. But before we begin, please be sure to press that like, all of you, share, and if you have not already done so, subscribe to our channel. But before we actually get started, please allow us to give you this brief commercial. Don't miss this exclusive 2-hour Q&A session with renowned metaphysician and polymath Dr. Phil Valentine, aka Baba Sanu, next Tuesday, December 19th, 2023, 8 p.m. Eastern, hosted by yours truly, as a prequel to his January 14th, 2024 blockbuster webinar entitled Aristocracy of Evil, the Redux, Constructs of the New Old Order. Dr. Valentine will provide uncensored commentary and answers to questions asked by me and you, the viewers alike. Now, note, the live stream is free, but you must pre-register at www.houseofreawakeningminds.com, where there is a registration link. If you missed the live presentation or wish to do it again, a replay link is provided and can be purchased for $4.99 and is also available on our website, www.houseofreawakeningminds.com. You don't want to miss this next Tuesday. Matter of fact, right now, go to houseofreawakeningminds.com and register so that you can get in for free. You've had questions you've always wanted to ask Dr. Valentine. Well, this is your opportunity. It's unfiltered. It's going to be on our exclusive unfiltered channel only. It will not be on YouTube or Facebook. So please register. It's next Tuesday, December 19th, 8 p.m. Eastern. Want to see your face in the play. How about that? Mm-hmm. We want to see him, don't we, Grand Sheik?
Yep.
Okay, here we go, y'all. So I'm excited. Are you? I'm excited. How y'all doing? We are here. And we thank you all for tuning in to tonight's broadcast. How you doing, Grand Sheik?
Oh, pretty good, Dr. J. Busy, just as you have been. I came down here, you was busy doing like 50 things.
Listen,
at the same time.
I didn't learn how to become.
To the last minute.
Look, I'm a constructionista.
Mm-hmm.
It's the world of a shout out.
Working it.
Shout out to Valerie. Valerie Barrow. Valerie is my partner in construction.
Mm-hmm.
We are getting some work done, and I thank you for all of your all the stuff I've seen you do over the years, and now us glamour girls are doing some stuff ourselves.
And we'll be doing more in the future.
Yes, we will. Yes, we will. Y'all, how y'all doing? We are so happy to be here with part 2 of our last 2 weeks ago.
Yes.
Broadcast on Yacoub's ladder.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of you have asked for more information. And I think it was a fascinating segment. So Grand Sheik is going to go further into it, and I'm going to sit on the sidelines, and if I can
comment, if you will,
comment and interject if I can, if I will.
Mm-hmm.
But listen, y'all, I hope that we see you next week. I hope that we see you next week, next Tuesday, on that broadcast with Dr. Phil Valentine. Please, that's it's free. It's free, but it's unfiltered, and I love unfiltered stuff.
Yes,
we're gonna do more.
But Dr. Phil, he gets real blunt with it.
That's right. So we want to make sure that we have it in a space where
he can just open up.
Right.
Yes.
And we can, be he can, he doesn't have to worry about can say that or can we're gonna let and get from him as much as we can. But we have 10,000. Listen to this. We have 10,000 seats available. Not exactly 10,000, because a few of you have already registered.
Mm-hmm.
You're asking, will Taj be there? He'll be watching. He's not gonna be.
I usually don't interrupt because I don't want to distract people.
Right.
Because then they start asking me questions. I don't.
Next Tuesday, the 19th, Tuesday that's coming up. It's not even a whole week from now. Next Tuesday, but you go to www.houseofreawakeningminds.com, and there is right there on, I believe, on the front page, I think there's a place where you can actually click on the link and you can register. Registration is free. Yeah. Registration is absolutely free.
And for many of you who have a long history with Dr. Phil, remember years ago on Carroll Street, and Dr. Phil had a big TV screen in the living room, in the dining room, and even in the yard, and it was always full. So those of you who have a history, remember Carroll Street.
Yeah.
Well, now you can talk to Dr. Phil again.
Right. He'll be right here on this channel, and we're excited about that. So without further ado.
Yes.
Let's pick up where you left off.
Islam. Assalamu alaikum. Salam. Shalom. Badi Makum. Bon Abort. Now, we're going to pick up where we left off the 2 weeks ago, right? And for those of you, so we're in the middle of the short treatise. Remember, the treatise is edited, but you'll get the unedited version in the book when the book is published. And so a lot of the text in the older books that you all have been used to, and many of you have some of it on the flash drive, right? That's a shortened or edited version to give people a fundamental background. When the book is republished, etc., it'll have the original text in it with more extensive. Now, I'm going to read the last paragraph that we left with the last session, Yacoub's ladder. And this part 2, I'll start off with the last paragraph of where we left off a week and a half, 2 weeks ago. And then we'll go on where we left off. So for those who are listening, if you want to get even a more extended background, look at the last session and follow up now. So evolution is the eternal cycle of becoming. Keep that in mind. Evolution is the eternal cycle of becoming. We are taught, and nature never leaves an atom unused. Moreover, from the beginning, everything in nature tends to become man. All impulses of the dual centrifugal and centrifugal forces are directed toward one point, man. This began with astral man, who is the reflection of the creative powers, quote unquote, called the builders. Man is the alpha, quote unquote, and the omega, quote unquote, of objective creation. All souls that incarnate on this planet, Earth planet, come seeking knowledge. These essences, intelligences, and conscious spirits are entities seeking to become more conscious by uniting with more developed matter. These essences are too pure to be distinct from the universal essence, but they desire material experiences. So they must pass through earthly human experiences to become, quote unquote, all wise, and to be able to return to their original state by way of an ascending evolutionary cycle. Color and vibration. When ordinary colors such as watercolors, oils, crayons, pastels, etc., are blended, they form a brownish black color. These colors are considered to be static or dead, quote unquote. However, when all the various shades of skin tones and complexions of humanity are blended, the last stage is, quote unquote, white. When one's vibrations are lifted to their highest visible physical stage, they are, quote unquote, white light. This is true because man is a dynamic being rather than a static being. Hence the Patagonian blonde, quote unquote, Patagonian blonde, ruddy skin creations of Yacoub are the sum total of all the races, but stop, but stop, but stop. Do not panic. If the incarnating ego does not control this sensitive, quote unquote, white body with its high strung nervous system, then it commits suicide when under stress. And all the other abominable and degenerate acts that the hybrid Europeans are known to do. Therefore, to what avail has such a ruddy-skinned body benefited the person? This high-strung and sun-sensitive being, manifest kind of man / mankind, was and is an unforeseen aspect and outcome of the aforementioned, quote unquote, sting brought upon the Asiatic nation due to Yacoub's Hybridization experiments. Steeped in the exercising of mystic arts, Yacoub, you know as Jacob, knew all of this, and it is the basic reason as to why he has been interpreted so differently. Some say that the word, quote unquote, Yacoub means, quote unquote, devil. Others say that Yacoub means, quote unquote, the preserver. Nevertheless, and at any rate, Yacoub as, quote unquote, the devil simply refers to the, quote unquote, mastery over the mystic arts. Devil or, quote unquote, demon implies, quote unquote, demon god or, quote unquote, demigod. Yacoub, through his studies and the knowledge of the solar system, realized that the demigods who were in control had knowledge of strange and terrible sciences. In some of the ancient writings, these quote unquote gods are referred to as, quote unquote, the Lucifer spirits. The hybrid Europeans has now changed this to, quote unquote, the evil principle, referred to as, quote unquote, Lucifer or, quote unquote, Satan. The person or the personification. Knowing that our solar system is controlled by the Lucifer spirits, and what is not in here, I just want to give you note, what's in the extended version, because this is reduced, right? You would see Yaldabaoth. So that's another, that'll be in the book. Yacoub used the mystical arts and sciences to create the people who are now the masters of the material world. Now, for those who don't comprehend the nature of the hybrid Europeans, this is where the psychosis of the hegemony practices that our people have been calling racism, this is where that spirit comes from among the hybrid Europeans in relationship to the rest of the Asiatic nation of the world, so that you understand what that spirit is. All right. To obtain this knowledge, Yacoub learned the ritual of the demigod in charge of the scientific knowledge that he sought. He fasted and waited for a response. Thus, Yacoub became the master of the material planet Earth, i.e., Midgard. His creations, quote unquote, now known as white men, are a true Yacoub because they have the knowledge of their creator. The quote unquote white people know very well that they are the children of Yacoub, and they do not need to have to be told so. They, the hybrid Europeans, give hints about this knowledge in books, so you can see the pathways and the avenues of acquiring it. But to make the pathway dark and rough, the Europeans and or the quote unquote Aryan priesthood changed the language to modern English as a smokescreen. The original English was derived from the ancient language of the quote unquote Druids. That's Druids, Druids. Beings who were known for their terrible mystical sciences. Genesis 35.10 and Genesis 25.25 are the biblical verifications for Yacoub's creations and the blessings his father gave them. Genesis 35.10, and God said unto him, thy name is Yacoub, you know as Jacob. Thy name shall not be any more called Yacoub, but Israel shall be thy name. And he called his name Israel. Only his story has been confused as a result of the Europeans' ability to mystify and to confuse others. Those changes were finally completed during the Revolutionary War of 1776, up until the founding of the quote-unquote Christian Unionized States Society of 1854 to 1863. Repeat, the Revolutionary War of 1776, up until the founding of the quote-unquote Christian Unionized States Society of 1854 to 1863. As an interjection, this is why over the years I've always reminded you all to look up the Whigmore parties, or the Whigs Party, and their convention at Philadelphia, 1854, and the deceptive split of the Whigmore of the conscience Whigs and the cotton wigs, which become what you have been trained in under animal husbandry in the modern era as the Republican and the Democratic Party appearing to be separate when they're actually two branches of the same operations of the demigods. This is why they have never served the interest of the people, but have always deceived the people with promises of benefit, while to the contrary, always draining the people of their resources and promoting wars to and fro the earth. Midgard. Today, the unknowing masses would call the knowledge that Yacoub had magic. The assumed yet misconceived ideas associated with the magic of tradition in the popular mind.
I have to interject. I have to interject. Y'all might have seen this. I just saw it today for the first time. It brings up the magic. There is in 2024, I think it's something I want to boycott. Mm-hmm. In 2024, there's a movie coming out called The American Society of the Magical Negroes.
Mm.
And the gist of this movie, look it up, y'all. The gist of this movie is a secret society of magical, quote unquote, Black people who dedicate their lives, it says, to a cause of utmost importance. And that cause is making white folks, quote unquote, lives easier. Can y'all believe this? It's got
that's interesting.
David Allen Greer is in it, and it's coming out in 2024, which we're almost.
It's not a surprise.
Yeah, the American Society of the Magical Negroes.
You know why? Because the hybrid Europeans know they're the Negroes. That's number one. And like we mentioned the last time, Dr. G, mm-hmm. A lot of these things, the hybrid Europeans themselves are revealing. And it's interesting and it's timely.
But in this particular movie, though, there's not we melanated folks or the magical Negroes making the so-called white folks' life easier
now
through their magic.
Now keep this in mind. For many people who really don't know this history, this is important because many of our people get confused when they say things like this. Why did the Moors make peace treaties with the hybrid Europeans, knowing how evil that they were? It's a karmic response. See, and then others would say, why did the Moors go into Europe and give and present to the hybrid Europeans what do they refer to when the Moors went into and taught the hybrid Europeans?
It was
the Renaissance.
Okay.
What does the Renaissance mean? And has always been promoted to be born again.
But
that's what the Renaissance means.
The interesting also part that just dropped into my head, if you will, into my ori, was that it is almost the same thing as when they say the so-called sons of God or the Anunnaki or whoever they say came down and gave knowledge to mankind, the beings, if you will, the creation.
That's part of the Yalda.
Yeah, but when you turn around and look at what the Moors are said to have done in Europe, it was the same way.
Once you understand the history, you understand why the Moors didn't hate the Negro. The Moors had to take responsibility because from our bloodline, from our own people, they were created. Therefore, we have to take responsibility, even though the experiment created negative. And another way that they tell you about it is the continued stories that they would make of, just like when you look in the treaties, right? When you look at the treaties, etc., and the treaties, etc., when they're talking about the Frankish, right? The Franks. Now you understand Frankenstein. Stein is strain, genetics. Now you understand what the story of Frankenstein really is. So in many ways they tell you, but if you don't know that a lot of things that are presented as fiction are really reflections on real life. And it's sort of like, this is even when, like a lot of people who really don't know the history, and they would say, why is it, quote unquote, because you already know these are improper, what you call pseudonyms, but it's as presented, to twist the mind. They would say, why do Black women always like the little white dolls? Or you'll see a movie they had years ago called Rosemary's Baby.
Mm-hmm.
And then people would always get contradictory thoughts as to how the hybrid Europeans would always mistreat us, and yet our women would always feed their babies or take care of their babies. And it appeared to be such a contradiction. It is because from our bloodline through the hybridization, they came. And even though they are not what you would call pure human blood, this is where you see many of the Germanic naturalists like Darwin, etc., make reference to the chimpanzee and say they came from the chimp. And this, and because of the nature, the high-strung nature, which is also why with people who really don't understand real nature of things, many of our people would get confused when they would run or have to deal with many of the hybrids who became what you call colonial operatives. Why, most of them, as soon as they hit late 30s, going into 40s and 50s, they become cranky. It's because of the UV rays and the other rays of the sun would attack their nervous system. And this is why many of them would suffer from scoliosis, or that hunchback that our people would see in a lot of the hybrid Europeans, and thinking that, why do they do that? Because they don't know even the slight bone structure. Or like when you see a lot of the hybrid Europeans, you notice that they have a narrow heel, a very narrow heel most of the time, very straight down and narrow heel. And most of the Asia have a rounded heel and more broad. So if you know what's up, you understand this. And this is why, like, it's a negative, true, but we have to take responsibility because we are the original stewards of the planet. And even though Yacoub and the 12 women scientists created Yacoub, you need to understand that what you call the universal creator did not make Yacoub. Man made mankind. And even when you see the hybrids in the 60s, when they talk about, even though it was fake, pretty much, their so-called sojourn to the moon, to Luna, and you see them made the statement, one step for man, a giant step for mankind. They're making the distinction. So they know that we are man, they know that they are mankind. That's where that phrase comes from. Once you understand the real history and the amalgamation spirits, right, you understand a lot of the politics. And also you'll understand why what appears to be the contradictory nature of a lot of the Asiatics tolerating the hybrid Europeans and forgiving them. And then you also know why only the hybrid Europeans are referred to as colonists anywhere on the planet. Anywhere on the planet, they're not indigenous. Nowhere on the planet. Why? They're referred to as modern man because they have no historical birthright. So that has to do a lot with the vandalism. And that's why in history they refer to as the Vandals. And even one of their corporate operations of robbing other nations is called Vanguard. It's one of the largest corporations. So even in their corporate operations, they give code to their own history. So I just want to throw that at you so that you can see through things.
I was listening last night to a doctor, researcher on a TV radio program, like this morning, actually around 2:00. Mm-hmm. And he was talking about he was asking what vitamins and minerals were most beneficial to us. So when they got to vitamin D3, vitamin D3, he said, and he was a hybrid. He said the most important way to get the D3 that you need is through the sun.
Exactly.
And he said the real sun. He said now you mean be out there 2 or 3 hours in the sun. And so the guy said, well, with your sunscreen on and out. He said no, soaking up the sun. And I'm thinking, he said no sunscreen, no sunglasses.
Because
he said,
that's where you get it.
And he said as little clothes on as possible. Put your bikini on or bathing suit and get out in the sun. And I thought to myself, does he know what he's saying? Because
yes, he does.
I mean, well, I know that it's good for us.
He does.
And I've seen a lot of doctors say to us, other than this one, that we melanated men and women need to wear sunscreen. This man said that we don't.
It's because kill yourself. You
need that.
Right. Now, if you pay, for most of you who have some memory of some of the generations, why grandmom used to always every once in a while, and this used to be traditional with us, I think to maybe 50 years ago, you don't see that practice too much anymore, where grandmom would take us out and we'll have lunch under the trees, and she'd say, take your shoes off, take your shirt off, and go stand, put your feet on the ground to ground yourself out, stand in the sun. A lot of things that were commonly our practices here, our people thought they was just dumb things or emotional things that grandmother did.
Yeah.
And the real deal is the matriarchy always preserved the family. And of course, a lot of the things that were traditional with us, the hybrid Europeans would disallow. This is why, like in the Christian Black codes, they would establish the rule that that the people would no longer listen to anyone but the priesthood. And I think that's around about Article 6 or 7 in the Christian Black codes, including the practice of us going to church on Sunday did not come from anything divine of our culture. It came from the priesthood, the hybrid priesthood here to control us. Keep that in mind.
If you look in the catechisms, if you will, they say, I'm trying to see if I can see the book real close, but they actually ask the question of who made the worship of, Worship Day Sunday. They say we changed it. They say it right there.
Yeah, well,
they created that.
Yeah, now and they used Jesus, which is a code word. Keep that in mind. It's not wrong. It's a code word. When they make reference to, the Moabite bloodline is Yeshua, right? And of course, they co-opt him, but they're not a part of him. This is why most of their practices are contrary to Yeshua or the nature of justice, but yet they always use him as a front. And so they paint or they use a paleolith, to represent the Jesus image to the people to interject themselves. And thus they become what you would call the Father God. This is why the priesthood is always called Pater or Father. All right. So they're taking the place of the true Moabites. This is what it is. All right. So the social politics when you see it, and don't be confused about it. All right. So we go back to the lessons, Yacoub. Now, tradition to the popular mind. In reality, though, the said magic is quote unquote yoga. Now, keep in mind, yoga means the binding. And also this is where you get the yoke that you hear of. That's where that comes from too. Keep in mind too, that the ignorance of modern Western science about yoga, quote unquote, caters to the masses, mistakenly calling yoga magic or a bag of tricks. Know this. On the spiritual plane, everything is out in the open. There is no ignorance. Therefore, there is no world of illusion. Man's ignorance of the invisible forces that move the universe is due to his crystallized state in gross matter, physical. And since higher beings can look right through these bodies, this physical plane is also an astral plane of sorts. The wonders of the universe are infinite. In ancient Egypt, Hikupta, it was magic that attracted its grade or complexion as a cosmic science and was formulated as a perfect doctrine. Creation, quote unquote, is the great magic. The great mysteries of the universe are the creative processes constantly occurring around us, yet so trite and common to us that we never note or reflect upon them. The knowledge given to Yacoub by his father and the cosmic masters, the quote unquote space people, was cosmogic, quote unquote, cosmogic, Cosmogic. That cosmic wisdom, quote unquote, was knowledge or gnosis of all past knowledge. This is what, quote unquote, given the 8 ball refers to in and you'll hear Scorpio, the 8th sign of the zodiac, the sign of wisdom, and the 8th house, the house of death, legacies, and inheritances. These legacies are the mystic arts and black and white magic or magi, M-A-G-I, quote unquote, means science and astro order, quote unquote, science and astro order. In 49,000 PM Primordial, Yacoub created the European, the hybrid European, partly for his own personal reasons and also as a countermeasure for the quote unquote sins of the Moabite nation. In the Bible, these experiments, which resulted in the 12 tribes of Israel or Jacob's ladder, are a human bouquet, the different quote unquote races of man. It was after the creation of these 12 tribes that Morluakinil, MUUR-LU-AH-KIN-EL, Morluakinil, the father of Yacoub, Caucasus, Cushitis, Yacoub in the Christian Bible, changed his name to Yacoub Israel. This too is mentioned in the book of Genesis at chapter 35. All of this caused the earth much pain due to the scientific Hybridization experiments. Yet out of this pain also came pleasure and beauty and an opportunity for human development. Yacoub's ladder represents communion with God, meaning he possessed clairaudience, that's Clairaudience, and clairvoyance.
That's clairaudience.
Clairaudience, pardon me. Clairaudience and clairvoyance. So these are also some of the mystical arts that are taught in the sciences. The name Israel is derived from Asar, A-S-A-R, the sun god, quote unquote, sometimes known as Suryal. That's S-U-R-Y-A-L, and Sur, S-U-R. Israel means, in short, striving with God, quote unquote. The Semite relates to the ancient natural Asiatic African peoples of the land, distinguished from those modern inhabitants, quote unquote. Semite relates to the ancient natural Asiatic African peoples of the land, distinguished from those modern inhabitants. The Semites refer to the Asiatic peoples who were the original inhabitants of what is now geographically called the Mediterranean area. Yet keep in mind the fact that in the ancient world, what is now the geographical northeast or protrusion of the land, which is now known as Asia Minor, Africa, was actually conjoined to the land area and the Gulf, which is geographically located at Central and South America, namely Mexico, Old Omexum, Olmec. The ancient waters of the Atlantis, or now Atlantic Ocean, used to be a broad river before the sinking of Mu and Atlantis, caused by the earthquake and tectonic shift. At the chronology and cycle of the great annexum of Superdivere, related to the surveying of the land or division between Ham the father and Cush the son, and before the great earthquake, the Mappa Mundi, or world map, repeat, Mappa Mundi, or world map, was distinctly different. Those of us Moabites who crossed over the river during the dividing or division of the land were referred to as the Ibri, that is Ibrhi. The ancient Ibri are now called or referred to, for a lack of knowledge of the true history, the Hebrew. Repeat, the Ibri, Ibrhi, the ancient Ibri are now called and referred to, for a lack of knowledge of the true history, the quote unquote Hebrew, or Shem, the firstborn or eldest son of Noah. All of this must actually be placed into another, more proper historical context and taken out of mystery. The Semitic nations are known in traditional history as, quote unquote, the Babylonians, the Assyrians, the Armenians, the Phoenicians, the Hebrews, the Canaanites, the Edomites, the Moabites, the Amorites, the Carthaginians, Moors of North Africa, the Arabs, named after Negro Yavera Arebo, and the Abyssinians. The Semitic languages are closely akin to one another, and they are also the first phonetic corruptions of the eldest children of early Sanskrit, or they would refer to you as Sanskrit. Sanskrit is really Samskriter. Sanskrit is an ancient Indic language that is the classic language of Hinduism and the Vedas. These elegant and associated Asiatic African languages include Akkadian, Arabic, Aramaic, Ethiopic, Hebrew, and Phoenician. The Semites, especially the Arabs and later the Aryans, which is a priesthood, were degenerate in spirituality, but perfected in materiality. A close kinship also exists between the Semitic peoples and the peoples called Hamitic, the Egyptians, the Berbers, and the tribes of Somaliland. Over time, Yacoub's sons and daughters have given themselves many names, most common of which are Afghan, African, Indian, Spanish, Ethiopian, Graco or Greek, Jew, and Chinese. Hagar-il, Aunt Hagar. Matri means mother, and matrilineal also relates to the same. The ancient Moabite nation was a matriarchate, and this is a social order, governing body politic, or state where the dominant authority, structured in harmony with nature, is vested in and is held by women. Being the manifest feminine cosmic principle, Hagar-il was a matriarch of the matriarchate rulership of the ancient Moabite nation. Yacoub's divine plan for sex relationship of Moorish men and women of Israel had fulfilled in harmony with nature's divine law of zodiac evolution among the children of Israel. There were 12 tribes in harmony with the zodiac law, 12,000 to each sign, which equals 144,000 among the children of Israel, of whom Hammurabi Bey was in charge in 836. That's 836 AM, ancient Moabite or Moorish calendar. Hammurabi, Hammurabi. So this is Hammurabi. And you are told in history Hammurabi. That would be Hammurabia. In the beginning of 836 AM in Yucatan of modern Mexico, Hagar-il, known as Aunt Hagar, the Moorish woman head of the Moorish nation government, had granted Hammurabi Bey permission to establish his own system for the welfare of the children of Israel, and was the king of Babylonia at that time. Here, Hagar-il had given Hammurabi Bey unlimited jurisdiction and powers to do as he pleased with the children of Israel during that era, because of the Moorish nation's non-responsibility for the welfare of the children of Israel. Hammurabi Bey's authorized free hand with the children of Israel enabled him to set up his own government for them, within the standard government of the Moorish nation, quote unquote, just as our contemporary federal government did in these modern years for the Union States right system of, quote unquote, white supremacy in 1863. King Hammurabi, applying etymological structure, then framed from the Moorish nation's Latin language a new language termed Arabic. This was done in honor of the last name of Negro Yavero Areba, chimpanzee monkey, which is an anthropoid of the Pongidae animal family and referred to in some literature as the Negro animal. This Negro animal being the father of the children of Israel. Hammurabi Bey decreed the children of Israel, Arabians, Muslims of the Moroccan Empire. He then framed from his own name the name Mohammed. Mo from Muslim and Hamid from Hammurabi. This is the origin of Muhammad, the title of rulership of the Moroccan Empire's religious system. The Moorish nation's Holy Quran, Bible of zodiac prophecy, is the book from which Hammurabi Bey framed his Quran book, Quran, Koran, from Quran, Qurah. Hammurabi Bey was the greatest and most powerful ruler of the first Babylonian dynasty, and the collection of the laws and edicts issued by King Hammurabi are known as the Code of Hammurabi. Repeat, the Code of Hammurabi. His name is displayed through history in the following forms: Hammurabi, 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 and Hammurabi. Hammurabi, pardon me. The Code of Hammurabi is the earliest legal code known to exist on the planet. Repeat, the Code of Hammurabi is the earliest legal code known to exist on the planet and is preserved in its entirety. The codes, quote unquote, were engraved upon 80-foot high block of black diorite stone. Diorite is a very hard form of crystalline granite. King Hammurabi Bey's code of law begins like this. Anu and Bel, called by name me, Hammurabi, the exalted prince who feared God to bring about the rule of righteousness in the land, to destroy that wicked and evil doers, so that the strong should not harm the weak, so that I should rule over the black-headed people like Shamash, and enlighten the land to further the well-being of mankind. The composition and divine origin of Hammurabi's code of law is highly emphasized by bas relief, as BAS-RELIEF. And in this relief, Hammurabi is known as or depicted as receiving, quote unquote, the code from the sun god Shamash. And the quality which is most associated with Shamash is that of, quote unquote, justice. The code is comprised of 28 paragraphs. Further studies attributed to Hammurabi's code is expected to the reader or scholar. And here you see that old map. All right. Yucatan, land of Utah. Hammurabi's code was was written in cuneiform and contains no laws having to do with religion. The code is humane in that it attests to the nature of, quote unquote, justice, being at the heart of Hammurabi's rulership. Hammurabi describes the laws of his code to cause justice to prevail in the land and to destroy the wicked and the evil. Thereby, the law should enable the land to enjoy good government and good rule. King Hammurabi said, "Let any oppressed man who has a cause come into the presence of my statue as king of justice and have the inscription on my stele read out, and hear my precious words, that my stele, or stele, that many of you would call it, may make this case clear to him. And may he understand his cause, and may his heart be set at ease." There are other aspects and parts of the Hammurabi's code which are held as being harsh and rigid. Consider them in your studies and of your consequential relationship to the children of Israel, and in turn analyze the social and political atmosphere on the planet in these days. End. Now, in relationship to that, remember 2 weeks ago when we told you that we would go into Ku Klux Klan or Kyklos? Once you understand Hammurabi's code and his responsibility of the hybrid, you kind of understand their creed of Kyklos. And so this is where and why they give honor and worship Hammurabi, but also at the same time, a lot of their negative response was because of the harsh rule of Hammurabi at the same time. And that was for many of the hybrids that still maintain the animalistic tendencies or that high-strung nature that you all know as the Vandals. Now, I'm going to go into a little bit because I don't want to go to all of this. I want you to interject what you say and what you feel.
Okay.
Now, what about the Ku Klux Klan? The Ku Klux Klan, that's Ku Klux Klan, is one of the largest of the secret organizations of Christendom that flourished in the southern territories of North America during the period of quote unquote Reconstruction. The Ku Klux Klan was founded in Pulaski, Tennessee. You would know that as Lower Egypt. And is noted for its sincere and unmoved dedication and honor to the quote unquote Christian creed and to the Constitution of the Union of States. Tennessee entered the Union of States Society in the moon, you would know as month, of June 1, 1796 AD, which equal to 1216 Morse calendar, and takes the honors of the first home of the quote unquote planners. That's Klanners. The KKK order grew very rapidly in 1867 and 1868 AD, 1287 and 1288 MC. The general organization of the Klan was perfected in May of the year 1867, at which the quote unquote Constitution was adopted. The second and modern society of the Ku Klux Klan was founded in 1915 AD, 1335 MC, in Atlanta, Georgia. The major arm of the Ku Klux Klan order is the arbitrary regulation of life by quote unquote white Christian Protestants. Ku Klux Klan is also spelled with a hyphen as KU-KLUX-KLAN. A few of the other Christian secret orders that merit study and review are: 1, the Knights of Columbus; 2, the Knights of the White Camellia; 3, the Society of the White Rose; 4, the White League. Planners. Planner is the designation used to identify a member of either one of the secret societies. The Ku Klux Klan derived from the Greek word kyklos, which means a circle. The founders of the Ku Klux Klan were clearly using high cultured cosmological science in its structure constitution. The secret order was not founded by ignorant men, therefore should not be viewed or dismissed as merely an outlaw organization of unreasonable people going wild with hate and unconstitutional violence. This would be a very inaccurate assessment. Klanners have traditionally honored their Union of States Constitution with a more orthodox respect than others who have criticized the Klan. Most critics have never read the U.S. Constitution. General Nathan Bedford Forrest, a Union of States Confederate General Nathan Bedford Forrest was the first Grand Wizard of the Ku Klux Klan. The KKK order was effective in frightening the Negro out of the unnatural alliance with the Union League, but was also used as a cloak for lawlessness, land theft, and other forms of violence. The Ku Klux Klan was often, the Ku Klux Klan often did the clandestine work for which the Union of States government officials would not openly declare or do in the public arena. In effect, the Ku Klux Klan was and is used as a willing scapegoat and partner of the Union Society for executing in secret or in open some of the extremely violent and negative activities or ordinances derived from and or supported by the state's Christian black codes and the Negro Acts and other laws and ordinances governing, quote unquote, free blacks. The black codes and Negro Acts could and would be animated and enforced whether in the public or the private sector of the Union. The KKK originated within the Union of States government circles, having the mission of preserving and protecting Christendom at large. If this fact is not known or understood, then one cannot objectively analyze United States of America's history, development, and the reason of the non-ending so-called, quote unquote, race problem.
Can I stop you right there?
Yes.
Before you go any further, look, when you read this part about the KKK originated within the United States government circles, having the mission of preserving and protecting Christian
that's their official,
at large.
Their official title.
Well, whether it was what they did or not, the mere fact, and most folks, because mostly a lot of us, we cling to Christianity, to like that was our original belief system, that's what we practice. But what they don't understand, whatever, is how it has been pushed through an organization that has always been against the well-being, exactly, the health, the safety of the whatever, having us, even seeing us as human, or as not, I don't even say human, but who we are. They don't see us in our state. I like the fact that they say they fear, we're gods and they fear us. But the fact of the matter is that when you see that they were upholding Christendom, which is Christianity,
and this is why, like, you'll see the priesthood will never tell the people the official name of what is presented in the Western, what they refer Occidental world. All right. The official name of their version or their modification of the ancient Gnostic wisdom is the Niceno-Constantinopolitan Creed, also known as the Nicene Creed.
It's given in churches as the Apostles' Creed.
Now,
it's told to us, it's taught as the Apostles' Creed, that this was what the apostles.
And if you understand why it was formulated to mentally enslave their Aboriginal people,
right,
and why Jesus is used as a code instead of telling the people about the Moabite bloodline, Yeshua. And this is where you get in the dynamics of the book. I think it's in the book of Mark. Where Yeshua say, they claim to be Abraham's children, but they're not. If they were, they would do the works of Abraham, because he's talking about the hybrid. And this is where you all hear the tradition of this body of people claiming to be Jews and are not Jews. That's what that really means. So they're talking about the hybrid.
Here's someone. I want to put this statement up.
Good.
It's been my research that the Ku Klux Klan came out of the quote unquote Order of Christ, founded by Prince Henry of Portugal.
So now you understand the Order of Christ is also the Order of Jesuits. Loyola. It's all related.
Loyola University. Yeah.
You understand that. And you also understand why the priest, particularly in the Western Hemisphere, will never mention the proper name or the real name of Westernized Christianity, because the real deal is the worship of Constantine, not of Jesus. That's why you'll never see any of the preachers say Niceno-Constantinopolitan Creed. Now, for those who are sharing with us tonight, go into your old dictionaries and look up Niceno-Constantinopolitan Creed, and you'll see that's the official name of what's been taught to the people in the Western Hemisphere, which is Christianity, which is really a modified version and really isn't Christianity. It's actually Constantinism. And Kykelos is the grand protectors of that creed. Now you understand why years ago, remember Dr. G, years ago in Philadelphia area, I think they had when we used to have what they call a Jet magazine, which was a small magazine.
My mother used to buy them all the time. Yeah.
And one of the it's been torn down, but there's another church complex up on Lehigh Avenue in Philadelphia, somewhere around. For those who are familiar with Philadelphia area now, somewhere I think it's somewhere around 18th Street, somewhere in that area, and they built a McDonald's there. And it used to be in that area. It used to be the original baseball field in that area too. But now
they built that huge.
Yes.
It's a huge one of our churches.
Now, years ago in the Jet magazine, you'll find that many of the quote unquote so-called black churches, all the millions and millions and millions of so-called dollars that have been collected by the so-called black churches, there was some missing finances and stuff. And many of the so-called black churches got together and they did a suit, and you'll find it in an old magazine. But what occurred was during the discovery, in discovery during that suit, they discovered that all the finance were sent to a Baptist church owned by the Klan in the South. And all of these people in these so-called black churches thought they owned their churches and thought that they, had all these millions of dollars saved. And that suit brought out in discovery that all the finance was actually being sent to the Klan down south. But this is because they don't know that they're actually worshiping Constantine. This is part of the problem that a lot of our people have in our communities when they discover the corruption of their so-called black evangelist guys. And some of them have, you'll find if you do some deeper research, were part of the overseeing operations and also with child trafficking. Some of that's going to be coming out to you now, even as these things begin to collapse. Any response, Dr. G?
Well, I'm not going to pick that. That my response would be.
Well,
I would be unfiltered. So
I'm just throwing that out there to give you something to think about. Because remember, this is the whole deal.
I'm telling you that we're not going to talk about that.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, for people to know the real history is to know the politics, because our concepts are wrong because we have not been told the real chronology and the real history. And also you begin to understand why certain things were done by the Klan in relationship to the harsh laws of Hammurabi. But Europeans, like among themselves, talk about that. But of course, our people haven't been taught their history, so they don't know the history. And so this is why the Europeans created the reconstructed history of bringing us on a good ship Jesus in 1555, what they call reconstructed history, to disconnect us from the land, because they have no right, and so they're claiming the land. This is why you see the hybrid Europeans always saying America as a country when America is really a continent. That's their claim of the birthright. And this is the real operations of them creating the fiction of them being Americans when actually they're hybrids.
Can we I know you're speaking of the KKK, which, sort of like they just exist, but can we tie this into what we've been talking about over the past couple of weeks?
It is.
No. I know it is. That's why you're doing it. But tie it. I'm kind of trying to get us to a place where we go, okay, so Yacoub created them.
And they know
then
it.
wait a minute. Yacoub created them. We know there's accounts in the biblical narrative that would suggest that is them when you're talking about the lepers and the ones that had to hide.
Lepers/leprechauns.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Okay. Leprechauns. Okay, so we know that. So even when you talk about leprechauns, you put them basically in Ireland, which is more like a colder.
That's why they would call them the white Negroes.
Okay.
Or like even like when you see a lot of those terms that you heard through the social order, and you hear them always call the Irish, particularly in fights and stuff like that, they would call them the Black Irish.
Mm-hmm.
That they were blacks with white skin type stuff. You hear those terms? Yeah, that's where that come from. And then when you hear them, a lot of times when they're talking about themselves, they'll mention that the redheads were the most cantankerous.
Mm-hmm.
And if you want a real cantankerous hybrid European woman, get a redheaded woman, European woman. That's why you'll see a lot of hybrid Europeans would view their own redhead women as outcasts, or like what you call the white sheep. You know, it's because of her nature, because usually their thin skin was thinner and they would usually be more pale and they become more cantankerous. This is related to them being affected by the sun rays on their nervous system. So once you understand this, you understand certain things that you see in the social order, understand the origin. And it's not about hating or rejecting. It's about understanding what you're looking at, what you're experiencing. This is why Drew Ali would say to us, you know, you must learn to love instead of hate, because things that we didn't understand in the nature of things, we would take it as absolute evil when actually they're acting according to their nature.
That's why the American Society of Negro Magic is trying to help them get their act together.
And this is where you also just like when you look at a lot of the some of the aspects of the hybrid experience of using iron and even metals and stuff like that, even dealing with the sebaceous glands because of the hair and stuff like that. Why the heavy use of perfumes in the hybrid European society? Because even if, like, say for instance, like a hybrid can say in the morning get out of the bath, get a bath, right? Mm-hmm. And in the afternoon, they can be in what you call a humid atmosphere, and they would give off, their sebaceous gland would give off an animalistic odor. And this is where a lot of people who don't understand the hybriding would say, and it's not a negative, it's just a reality, where they say, oh, I have a friend, and they would call them white friend. And, we played ball and they would smell like a dog or something like that, or monkey. But that's where because it's the reflection or the odor from sebaceous glands. So that's not an offense. It's understanding the hybriding. And for people who don't understand that, you don't use that knowledge as an insult or to degrade anyone. You need to understand what has happened with the human family.
Yeah, I want to ask those of you in the chat to refrain from using 4-letter words in the chat.
You don't.
Please take
and don't do negative
and negative stuff because you're messing.
It's not for negative. It's for you to understand what your relationship in the human condition.
But I'm saying it to them because you're affecting who we are. They look at the chat just as well as they look at what we say, what the guests say. So if you just put some I'm not gonna call you out, but you just know the 4-letter word that you put in there. Please delete if you can delete that. I don't want to delete you. I just want to delete your comment because we don't want that. You can't.
It's not about negative.
Please don't don't put the offensive
comprehending.
You can maybe do that when we do. Look, if we do it unfiltered, you can say what you want to. Within reason. But please don't put that in the chat.
It's
please
comprehending the problems of the human condition, so that we don't unnecessarily, practice, or we don't want to continue the artificial hates for lack of understanding. When you understand the nature of things, you start looking at things objectively and scientifically and not with emotion. Because remember, when you operate from emotion, it creates negative response. And also, as long as the lie continues, it creates confusion. And confusion spurs hate and destruction. And we are for peace and not destruction. So when you understand the nature of things, you're able better to handle or govern yourselves accordingly.
So what we say is facts over feelings.
Exactly.
We're not trying to get you riled up for the sake of
it's
feeling.
for you to
We
understand what your
overstand.
experience is. See, and because our people have certain expectations from the concept of when they see that some of the hybrids are, lack humanity, it's because they're hybrids. But if you didn't know that, you have expectations that sometimes they can't produce. And then a lot of our people not understanding that they're hybrids would wonder why a lot of the hybrids would like to eat flesh raw. Or you see them go to restaurants and they always like their steaks rare, bleeding. And our people wouldn't understand it.
Absolutely.
Now you understand.
And they can't help it. Like you said, it's nature.
It's part of the nature.
The nature, they naughty by nature. Nature is a powerful thing.
And they're cantankerous by nature. This is why their body starts collapsing in the early 30s.
Yeah, because some of them,
like for instance, if you see a hybrid European, right, the more thin their skin is, the quicker they age, which means their flower years are between 12 and 21. After that, they started aging by double numbers, if you get the point.
Yeah.
And now keep in mind, this is again why some of the hybrids would during that period of time or in that cycle of their land organ, or what you call the physical being, would try to mix every so many generations in order to re-strengthen, because they would gentrify out.
I did see there was a couple of countries, Spain that didn't have, or some place hadn't had a birth in 3 months or something.
That's why
That's
why. All right. Now their regimes are recessive. So we're talking nature, so that you understand the nature of things. But later we'll go into Hammurabi's code, and then you'll understand the harsh part of Hammurabi's codes, and also you'll see the economic system that is studied by the world of Hammurabi's that's used in the economic system to this very day.
I wanted to ask you though, before you went further, when you were talking about the red-haired women, would that have any
being cantankerous?
But when they speak of, I'm going to off a little bit, y'all. But they speak of, most of the time when I hear them speak of giants, they speak of red-haired giants.
Yeah. And see, a lot of times you're talking, the giant is sometimes used not only in physical, but also in what you call political
stature. Okay.
Yeah,
But these ones they're talking
no
about
different that when they use the term loosely, great or grand being in stature, not necessarily in size.
Well, when these they're talking about, and
we know that too.
We're seeing evidence of large footprints and beings that they said have been able to, pick people up and eat them and stuff like that. So, and things that are being hidden, like in various places.
You understand a lot of the nature
would these be
cannibalism.
What I'm saying is, would these be some of our children, so to speak, Yacoub's creation that have over the years been like hidden in caves and
that's why
places like over in
Paleolith,
Afghanistan and stuff, and places.
Now you understand.
Okay, that's what I'm figure out. Okay,
would
they be throwbacks from that, or
yes,
or maybe not throwbacks? They just never left. They just been hidden.
Yes.
Okay.
And this is again, a lot of things that are kind of like suppressed or hidden, or why certain things where there's evidence of it and much effort is made by the controlling narrative to suppress such information. Why? Is because they must keep the world in mystery in order to continue to rule. Because remember, the people's concept is that their power is by their genetic, not understanding that their power is by our people not really understanding them or their own real history. That's another reason why in Masonry, this history is kept pretty much secret. Because remember, once you lose the mystery, they lose power over you, that mental power. Because remember, much of our people's subjugation is by tacit acquiescence. We submit because we believe that they're more powerful. But the deal is they know the mystical sciences. You get the point?
Mhm.
And so they twist them up into dogmata, which is what's presented to the masses as religion for control purposes. That's why in the Asiatic communities, that even the governing body will fund churches on every 4 blocks or so in poorest communities that technically couldn't afford to build all these grand buildings because they're actually military operations.
So I want to put this up here because this is a good question. So, how can so few hybrids be winning in life on the planet over hundreds of millions of indigenous, I guess, men and women?
Now, once you understand the mystical use of the magic forms,
That
now you understand why they have secret societies to keep the real history from. Because remember, most of our subjugation is mental.
Absolutely.
You already know, even when over the generations, when you see the hybrids would keep the Asiatics out of science, keep them out of sports, keep them out of anything, because we automatically excel. So they had to use what you call artificial suppression in order to subdue the people, to convince us we have no power.
And they use mental magic.
That's what because it's all
mind. It's really, all mind. Everything is mind.
It's called dark side magic.
Right. So they use mental magic. We succumb to diagnosis.
And it's called dogmata.
True. Right. But I'm saying I think largely what we're dealing with is mental magic, that things that we believe, belie, BELIE.
Code word is lie.
Lie. It be lie. It be a lie. And we take it in, and because we're so powerful, we do the work for them. We manifest the thing that they project.
All right, now look at this, Dr. J.
Yes.
This is why the practice, for those of you who are scholars and you start looking at international meetings that they have on the educational system, this is why they constructed what is known as connotative linguistics and promote it in so-called, quote unquote, Black communities, so that we would cast spells on ourselves to keep us in the state of mind we are. Also, look at the Southern Educational Society that becomes the General Education Board, 1902, with John D. Rockefeller and Frederick T. Gates. And for those listening now, you can go on your phone and look up the philosophy page of the General Education Board, 1902, and they tell you what they're going to do to your children. They don't even fail to they publish it, but they know our people keep believing that education just by itself is for human, when it's actually animal husbandry. You see?
Yeah.
So read the philosophy page of the General Education Board. As a matter of fact, Dr. G, pull that up, philosophy page, and read it.
Okay. Well, I'm responding to boom.
Oh yeah, well,
I just want to put this. They asked. I'm trying to answer this question. I don't think I put enough booms in there. Oh. You got too many O's on there. I'm putting a couple more. Okay. So I say this TV means that. So you mean the philosophy page
of the General Education Board?
Okay. 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 Y'all probably find it quicker than me.
And it's sort of like, a lot of things are actually available to everyone, but they know that most of our people have been trained to be scared of books. And so this is also why they've always limited our access to books for so many years as a principle of operations. And so our people don't know that we've been trained for purpose, for social engineering.
Yeah. So, okay. So what am I reading to?
The philosophy page of the General Education Board, 1902.
Okay. All righty. It comes up. Okay. Here.
And for those of you who are listening, you can go on your phone and find it too.
Yeah.
And for a lot of people who would ask, how do they do this? And how do they control it? They've trained you from childhood.
Okay. Why was it created? Okay.
General Education Board.
I'm looking at it,
All
but
right.
I'm just trying to find the philosophy page. What was the major purpose? Here we go. Maybe this will come up. General Education. General Education. Oh, they're giving a flowery thing. They're not giving it really the 1902.
Mm-hmm.
Because in 1902, we know they were.
Yes.
In other words, they were trying to make.
Or I'll bring it up here.
Yeah,
I'll bring it up here. I'll give it to you.
Let me
here.
read it.
I'll give it to you here.
Because they were trying to make us out of
All right.
robots. Okay.
Here, I'm gonna give it to you here.
Cool. Because I can't.
This is on the flash drive.
I know, but I don't have flash.
Yeah, but I'm just
It's not giving me this, y'all.
in the study class. So give me a minute. Continue to talk.
So anyway, as I was saying, most of what we've been subjected to, again, I'm going back to
Mind
control and experimentation that is going on. As Grand Sheik says lots of times, animal husbandry would be, we are akin to, we all know about, most of us, about Pavlov's dog, but we don't know that that was a way of a undermined way of saying what they were doing to us. They were, teaching us to respond to certain stimuli and so forth. And basically that's what has happened to us and what's been going on with us since they have created, especially since they've created as somebody said, what does TV mean? Tell, lie, vision. Use a vision, controlling what you see. And even before that, the radio for what you hear. That's why they say, believe, half of what you hear and none of what you see, or whatever way, none of what you see and half of what you hear, you know what it is. In other words, a lot of the things that have been presented to us have not been factual, have not been truthful. And we come to find out who the strange bedfellows have been all along. We find out that the people,
one of their secret societies, Odd Fellows.
Well, yeah.
Well, you need to understand what that means.
Well, yeah, but to find out that the government and the media have been in bed with each other all along, that the media has office in the government has offices in media, because they work together to control the narratives that go forth, that come out.
That's why so much effort is put into controlling the narrative.
That's why we have to be careful. I heard somebody say this, and it to me, it makes a lot of sense. Even sometimes, even the things that Grand Sheik and I will say, we can over indulge ourselves sometimes in information.
Just
first of all, a lot of times
they're messing with my computer right now,
right?
Because I had it up and it came right back down because they already know where I'm going with it.
But yeah, so we can overindulge ourselves in what we think is good information if we begin to take those things in and make the reality. And that's what they want to do. If I want you to manifest something, I keep putting it out. Like it's coming on the radio, it's coming on the TV, it's all over YouTube, it's on TikTok, it's on IG, it's on, whatever, Black Twitter, whatever they call it. And then all of a sudden you get so much of that now what you have, because you are a magi, I imagine nation. We are the I imagination. Imagination means that I can magi or magically create what it is.
That's where that term actually comes from.
Yeah, our imagination. So we are programmed into doing their bidding a lot of times. Everybody said we're not going to talk.
Also called the Black Code.
We're not going to talk about this tonight because other people are already decoding it, and Grand Sheik hasn't seen it. But just think what they've done over the past couple of weeks by putting out a certain movie that was executive produced by a certain man and woman who used to be in, and probably still are, in office behind the scenes, putting out something to mess with the minds is number one. I'm not even gonna give its name out there because y'all know I've sent out some copies of some links for decodes and so forth. But we getting caught up in this ish, y'all. We getting caught up to the point where if it works the way they want it, we make it happen because we're the mastermind. We are the mastermind. When those minds come together as one.
Let's look at yourselves like this. When you go into the history, right? The social history at North America, you'll notice that they always use the so-called black people to fight their wars. And you'll see Hitler and others will say, in relationship to the Aboriginal people here, that if they took the stovepipes out the wars, we would have kicked your asses. Because they know that all of the wars that they won or halfway won, it is the people here was entering the wars, fighting the wars for them.
Right, right.
That's again why other Asiatics around the world have an issue with the so-called blacks here, who for the most part have been looked at as traitors against their own blood.
Right. And so we
fighting the Romans fights for them.
And we are so connected, y'all, that when we think the same way,
understand the connection, the politics, your whole concepts will change.
Right. I told a sister today, my sister, when she was a sister friend is working with me on a project here at my home, said to me about some things going on with herself. She called it my illness. She said something about my illness. I said, stop right there. I said, stop right there. First of all, your first mistake is you're claiming ownership of it. And I said, diagnosis and prognosis and all those things are things that if you
cast
a spell. I said, first thing you got to do is divorce yourself from the fact that whatever it is they said that is yours, it's not yours.
That's why you don't do possessive. Remember, we always tell people, stop claiming possessive. This is back in the contract law, in the sociology of writs, and that's back in the civics. And for those of you who are going to different civic classes where people who really comprehend or know the psychosis operations will tell you, never speak of their instruments as yours. Things like my driver's license, my birth certificate, my marriage. As soon as you do that, you unknowingly have cast a spell on yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, the demons claim it. That's why they say don't make a compact with the devil. That's what that really means. That means with Yacoub's children.
You can't do it. You absolutely can't. You cannot.
Now, I finally got this back up. They have me fighting over here.
Yeah, so I'm trying to.
Here, I'm giving it to you. Here, I'm giving it to you.
Okay, I have it right here now. I got it.
All right.
It says, here's a quote out of it, what he wants you to hear. In our dream, and we're talking about Gates and Rockefeller.
Name it. It's the philosophy page of the General Education Board, founded in 1902, John D. Rockefeller and Frederick T. Gates. Read.
In our dream, we have limitless resources. That's you, human resources. And the people yield themselves with perfect docility to our molding hand. The present educational conventions fade from their minds, and unhampered by tradition, we work our own goodwill upon a grateful and responsive rural folk. We shall not try to make these people or any of their children into philosophers or men of learning, men of science. We have not to raise up from among them authors, editors, poets, or men of letters. We shall not search for embryo great artists, painters, musicians, nor lawyers, doctors, preachers, politicians, statesmen, or whom we have ample supply. The task we set before ourselves is very simple, as well as very beautiful one: to train these people as we find them to a perfectly ideal life just where they are. So we will organize our children into a little community and teach them to do in a perfect way the things their fathers and mothers are doing in an imperfect way in the homes, in the shops, and on the farm, end quote.
Now, that's called animal husbandry. And when you do the research, go on your etymology book dictionary and look up husbandry. And the general concept, you think that's a helpmate for the woman, and is really dealing with principle of agricultural economics. It's farming.
We found them on the farm. Let's leave them on the farm. Let's
And
profit
control-
from them, benefit
now-
them from them, control them.
Now, this is point, Dr. J. Now, notice how this is a public document. How many mothers and fathers from our communities have always had meetings talking about, oh, our children have poor books, and we need to go to the parent-teachers meetings and tell them to get better books for our children, and never even read the philosophy page, which is public information, and they're telling you what they're doing to your children. And this is for many people who keep asking, how do they do this? How do they control? Because you've been trained from childhood under animal husbandry and didn't know it. And so mentally, we are self-enslaved.
Mhm.
This is why a lot of this information is given to you to break the spell.
Yeah.
You know, and that's why they say, you know, if
I'm gonna do some spell breaking motivational on our unfiltered channel stuff, because we do have magic. We are magic. We are the magic. We are the commerce. We are the energy.
Even look at this, Dr. J. Even when they do their so-called calculations, mathematical calculations and trigonometry for the so-called pathways or the angles to the so-called moon, who really did the math? Asiatic women.
Now, whether or not they actually,
but the deal, they still use their math.
Yeah,
That's
whether or not they actually went to the place they told us.
But the deal of it is,
but they did use our
it's
women.
still us.
Yeah.
But they never get credit for
we
it.
hit the hidden figures.
there you go again.
Right.
But again, Dr. J, for many of the questions that keep coming up, how do the Europeans been governing us in their hybrid?
My question is, what? Because I hear some say, and this I never heard you say this, but I've heard it said that there were some say extraterrestrial malevolent beings that said to them, because we had them off in these mountains and these places, we actually for their own good, but came to them and said, we will help you gain dominance over them, and gave them, you know, some knowledge or gave them some technology or
this
something.
Is what, all right.
And have you heard that?
This is all right. Now let's talk about this. With the the Dwight D. Eisenhower administration.
But that was I know. Okay.
I'm responding. The Eisenhower administration during that major period, from the 52s, from 49 to 52 era, 54 era, when Dwight D. Eisenhower started exposing the issue of the military-industrial, congressional complex, and in your school books and in your most of the dispensation to the public, they removed the word congressional. So they'll hear the industrial complex, military-industrial complex type thing without the congressional, because they don't know that the Congress is really trustees for the United States Corporation Company for the Order of the Jesuits and the Circle Church and Chancery under the Popes of Rome. This is why they keep saying America, America, America when they're not Americans. Also, they will say America as if it's a country, and then interject in the same sentence USA, which is really the unum sanctum alliance, and our people think it's a country because of their training. Now you understand the philosophy page, and then you also understand or have a concept of why they have Rocky running up past the statue of the assassination of Winona at the base of the mound where the art museum is in Philadelphia, and he runs up the steps and goes like this. See, all of those things they put things in for you to see if you know what you're looking at. Now remember, so they assassinated Winona in 1902. They set up the General Education Board in 1902. You see? Even so, when they made the agreement, to start doing what? Sacrificing humans for experiments was in 54 in Eisenhower administration. Then that was the same period of time when they did the altering of the history and relinquished jurisdiction at Morocco, but didn't decolonize here. and then they started flying the Moroccan flag at the kingdom, but not at the empire, and they continued the operations of the occupation. And this is why the 14th Amendment mind control human trafficking system of the manumission was in 1954 and 55. Then they promoted the so-called Negro marching guys to convince the Aboriginal people to be Negroes and to try to be U.S. citizens. And that has been the goal of our people, that which could never be reached. And the so-called civil rights paradigm, its root is around 1955. Then they took the dark skin of Moabites that they abused on the bus and replaced her in history with a light olive sister.
Yep.
And the so-called Rosa Parks reconstructed
was not the sister that was on the bus. She was not the one.
In other words, our whole general sociology has been built on what you call twisted lies. You know, and this is again why the 33-degree Mason, who also became a part of the so-called civil rights movement, after finding out or getting signals that he was going to be neutralized, said, "Looks like I brought my people into a burning house." And then he also said, my people are refugees in their own land, which means they're indigenous. And of course, he broke his Masonic oath, and they what they refer to as neutralized.
Yeah, we know this, but so it's not just the hybrid.
You got to read through things.
Not just the hybrid that's causing all this confusion.
Exactly.
There are some of our own that want to throw us back into slavery.
And they're called overseers. And that's why Drew Ali said, right, be careful, Moors. Some of your own brothers and sisters wearing turbans and fezzes will be trying to put you back into slavery. Now, so when you start, so now for many of you who question that, start looking up even the COINTELPRO operations, right? Look up J. Edgar Hoover, the hybrid European with his fez on. Then look at a lot of your so-called black leaders with a fez, and you'll be surprised some of the figures that will come up. Because they all know that they're at Morocco. Then back to the issue of the off-worlders, right?
Yes.
Eisenhower administration for trade for technology would sacrifice humans for experiments.
But they had an option, I'm told.
They
had an option of
to continue for their world rule.
No, they had an option of getting what they would need for world peace or world domination.
Exactly, and they took the latter.
And they took domination
to continue, because remember the cycle of the dominance of the hybrid was basically over in around 52. Now that's further in the lessons that you'll find in the registered lessons of Clocks of Destiny, or registered in the Library of Congress, for those who are Order of the Great Seal, and that's the Asiatics of the land. And then if for any of you belong to any of the secret societies of the hybrid Europeans, not the Asiatics, because remember, they're not part of those other orders like Knights of Templars, Knights of Columbus and stuff. They're all hybrids. And this is why when you see, you can see Asiatic women cook and clean at the DAR, but none of them can ever be members of the DAR. And for others of you, as a point, look up, just go on your phones and look up Hillary Clinton speaks from the Ben Franklin room, which they do not do publicly. And you'll see she'll have the Moorish flag and the trading banner behind her. So keep that in mind. And she's a what? Member of the DAR. Now, for people who come here in the North from other political jurisdictions, they get the Citizens Manual, and that's called the DAR Manual. And this is where they are tested in civics. So people who come from other jurisdictions are tested in civics with what is known as the DAR Manual, which we showed you before, the DAR Manual. And so also be familiar with that. That comes from the Daughters of the American Revolution. And you'll notice that for those of you who do research and traveling, if you go to Washington, District of Columbia, you'll see that the Daughters of the American Revolution, the whole building is marble, including the steps. Then when you go inside the door, you'll see the copper brass plaque on the wall, and you'll see the United States with a small U, not an upper U. That's Union State Society. Then you go up on the second floor and you see Dolly Madison's room, and you'll see her clothes on like on a mannequin, and you'll see her turban displayed. And then you'll understand why no Asiatic woman can be a member of the DAR. And so the Dolly Madison, who's basically the head, or what you call the matriarch of the Daughters of the American Revolution. And so the members of the Daughters of the American Revolution will have to prove descendancy of European hybrids from Moorish harems. Mm-hmm.
Wow.
You need to know your history. Need to know your history. So we're telling you Moorish history. So, and this, like over the years, sometimes we were telling people, when you get into this information, do not come into this information self-righteous or arrogant, because we're not totally innocent. This is why, when why they say, don't come into this information with a self-righteous attitude. Like a lot of people, when they begin to learn that they're indigenous, they act like we were just innocent indigenous people sitting around, and hybrid Europeans came on a ship and start messing with us. It ain't exactly like that. We have a history. You understand? Now, and so when you see the hybrid Europeans wearing your fez in all the secret societies, that's a token of conquest. In the secret societies, they refer to it as tiara. All right, the Moorish fez is referred by them as tiara, or tiara sol. That is the crown of the sun. Corona sol. This is why even when they start doing the last kill off, they call it what? Corona.
Yeah.
Virus. Trying to kill off the heirs. And then when you also do the research, you'll find that the favorite method of the Jesuits for murdering people was poison. And in Latin, what is poison? What is poison in Latin? Virus. Now you understand why Gates family controls all the patents on the virus. Who set up the General Education Board? John D. Rockefeller, Frederick T. Gates. You see, once you understand these links, you'll better know the history here, and you also know how some of the motivations of why we've been mistreated.
Here's another.
And they're also trying to kill off the heirs and claim your estate. Go ahead.
Okay, says I read that Betsy Ross was a Moorish woman, and that George Washington was a mulatto that has blue blood connections into the Holy Roman Empire.
Now you understand the claim of the blood, trying to claim the estate. That's why they would mix. And also George Washington had over 300 more slaves, and his wife had more. And Betsy Ross didn't do crap that they told him making that flag, that trading flag. It would already exist as a trading banner. Amity and commerce. And notice that all of those things are displayed as being in the Shakamatsun territory. It's now called Philadelphia.
Mm-hmm.
Now you understand the Mummers Parade being there, the so-called blackface, assembling at 6th and Moore Street, you see?
Mm-hmm.
The Battleground, Horace Greeley, 1854 Whiggamore Party, the split of the cotton wigs and the consigned wigs. All of this stuff ties together. That's the real history of your suppression. It's not hidden, is that our people don't make the connection because scholars won't teach it like this because they can't get their so-called
10 years
kickback
and 10 years in the college universities
Thank
and so forth.
you.
Yeah, they will compromise and sell out their
That's
people.
why they keep promoting black as an identity when it actually is a pseudonym, nom de guerre, that makes such persons dead in law and non-descendable, thus wards of the corporate state, controlled by the Jesuit order. Now you go back to the manumission, you see, where the people think are been trained in the school system that it was liberation, when actually it was transfer of human trafficking from the conquering European families to the Congress of the Jesuit order, and is controlled by the Senate. That's where the 14th Amendment artificial person construct comes into social operations at North America.
Absolutely.
That's why so-called black people have no rights.
And
understand that's a status. It's not the identity of the people. It's a status of conquest or conquered Moors called black.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Now you understand the Christian Black Codes and the Negro Acts and the Buck Act and the Trading with the Enemy Act. Look at all of them in your studies and comprehend the operations of the political system at North America. Also, you'll have a better comprehension of the Inquisition revenue services known to you as the IRS. And they'll tell you that it's the Internal Revenue Services, really Inquisition Revenue Services. That's why they tell you you have one obligation, to pay taxes and die.
Yeah.
That's what? Unum Sanctum Alliance, USA. And you've been trained from childhood under the what? General Education Board, that is a country. And it's an occupational force. This is why over the years, we'd always, to get you back into your proper state of mind, we would literally show you the incorporation papers, because we knew that so-called black leaders always talking about loving little black boys and educating them and everything, would keep promoting that because they know it's a occupying corporation and not a country. And if they really love their children, they tell them the truth and stop taking that backdoor payoff, pretending they're trying to educate their people when they're actually maintaining the Christian Black codes, pretending to be Afrocentric. Well, that's the truth.
I know.
It's the truth. Uncomfortable, however, it's the truth.
Well,
and it's in your face. It's not that. This is why we're giving you their documents. It's not a secret. Is that our people are not exposed to this information.
So here's the deal. You know, it appears that the experiment, right, had over a period of time took over the scientists.
It became the reality. It's the dark side.
Yeah.
See, now you understand why the hybrid Europeans have always done what? Done what you call dark side magic. Now you understand when you start doing history in our lives, right? Mm-hmm. And a great example would be what is coming out today. A great example of the usury would be the Billie Holiday story. And you'll get an idea of the demons controlling the musical industry and our people being used up generation to generation.
Are we talking about a new Billie Holiday movie or the old one? You mean the stuff
that you read about Billie Holiday?
Yeah.
And how, she was given just enough finance for image, but all the wealth that her music created, and also the sister Bessie before her, and others, that they have never really had control of their music, and hybrid Europeans always got wealthy off of them. Then they would introduce them to drugs, and then when or they became no longer useful, they kill them off.
That's happening today. We hear
Now you understand
that's
what happened to Billy Hendricks,
That's what happened to Whitney.
Sam
That's
Cooke,
what happened to
Whitney, her daughter,
was Otis
on and on
Redding
and
all
Otis
that.
Redding, on and on and on and on and on, and you'll see that most of those people pass their organic form in non-natural circumstances.
Yes. Listen, there are 889 folks in, or plus 61, whatever that adds up to, 940, 50 or so of y'all. I can see right now in the chat. We need to have at least that many likes. You need to give us a thumbs up. We're not asking for it for monetization, because we are not monetized. We're asking for it so it moves up in the algorithm so that folks can see this, that it's not get buried, because this discussion really needs to be continued. And I'd like to continue.
We'll continue it.
Right. But I'd like to continue it in the unfiltered arena, because we paid y'all paid for our unfiltered channel to be renewed, and we need to put it to use, and we're gonna try to do that a lot more than what we did last year. But with that said, I really want you all to get out of thinking that everything that you see has to come by way of YouTube and Facebook and all that stuff. If there's we have a way to talk to you all that does not mean that does not put us in danger of censorship or
what they call YouTube jail.
Yeah, we can't. We don't want to say that, but censorship. So we have our own channel, y'all. So when we ask you to register for something and it's free, then please take advantage of what it is that we're asking you to register for. And so with that, I for those of you who were not on at the very beginning, right? I want to give you an opportunity, if you will, to kind of log on to our channel.
Yeah.
We have our own channel, y'all, but let's use it. Let's use it. Let's not act like it's got to be on here. It looks the same way. It absolutely looks the same way as if you were on these other platforms. All you got to do is register and then go back to the link, and then come back on when we say it's going to air, and you'll have to hear.
Also, as a reminder, just like some of the things that we were looking at today.
Yeah.
And I mentioned to you. Now, as for those who are listening, in relationship to the philosophy page of the General Education Board, that's on their occasional papers, number 1, public information. General Education Board, New York, 1913, page 6. So that's reference for you all to find what Dr. G just read to you.
Okay.
And so the deal of it is, recognize that it's public information, but keep in mind while you're reading it that they're literally publishing what they're going to do to your children, what they've been doing. And you see our people have been having what you call organized meetings, talking about their children and better education and better books, and never even read the philosophy page, them telling you what they're doing to your children. So you can see why many of them are contemptuous of our people.
So listen,
Good.
with all you on here, I need to make sure you know what's coming on. As I was saying, that we have a channel and we're trying to put it to some use now. And so therefore we want you to take advantage of what's going on this coming Tuesday. We don't want you to miss this exclusive 2-hour Q&A session with renowned metaphysician and polymath Dr. Phil Valentine, aka Baba Sanu. It's going to be Tuesday, December 19th, when you normally see Office Hours with Dr. G. And I'll be hosting it as a prequel to his January 14, 2024, 7-hour blockbuster webinar entitled Aristocracy of Evil, the Redux Constructs of the New Old Order. Dr. Valentine's going to provide uncensored commentary and answers to questions that I pose to him, as well as questions that you pose to him. Now, this live stream is absolutely free, but you must pre-register on our website. You see it here at the bottom, www.houseofreawakeningminds.com. There is a link on the front page for you to register for this. It's coming up Tuesday, y'all. If you missed the live presentation or you want to see it again afterwards, a replay link can be purchased for $4.99. And we have, when you go to register, you'll see in that registration link where the link is if you just want to purchase the $4.99 replay, which will be available to you after, of course, it has taken place. You want to tune into this because Dr. Valentine is going to be for at least 7 hours, Sheik. He's going to be letting off some powerful stuff. And there's also a link in our link for our 19th, December 19th broadcast so that you can register for his January 14th webinar. We want you, we are honored to have Dr. Phil Valentine on our channel. And we're going to be doing more like this. Sheik and I and others are going to be on the station, on our unfiltered channel, giving you what it is that we have been given to say, unfiltered, that unrestricted. So please, please, please write down if you don't know what that is, houseofreawakeningminds.com. Go register right now. We need you. We have, Sheik, do you realize we have 10,000 seats? There's 10,000, not 1,000. We have 10,000 seats. So we don't only want you to register, but we need you to tell your friends and your family to just click on the link and register. And then after that, you just go back to that same link at 8 p.m. Eastern next Tuesday. Click on it, and you'll have access to this presentation. You want to be a part of this. I'm excited. I'm really excited with him coming on. I mean, you see him everywhere else, but just for him to come on our channel is a privilege and an honor, and to also assist Dr. Valentine in promoting, because he's been pretty much banned from having his own stuff because of the powerful stuff that he shares.
Yeah.
So we need you to register. You can see it for free. But if you miss it, it's going to cost you $4.99 if you want to see it. So we ask you that you will be a part of this next Tuesday event. And hey, what else? Is there anything else we want to say? We'll be coming back.
Yeah, how many minutes do we have?
We got none, but we can talk as long as we want to.
All right. Now, let me, so that you'll have a comprehension of the politics that's going on. This is also continuing why some of these things we chose at this time because of the changing world, and because by necessity for the nations to save themselves, a lot of this information is coming out, and so you can recognize and read through the read between the lines of the political narratives going on in the political realm and things that are taking place in West Asia today, and also in relationship to in Russia and China and the BRICS operations. Now, this is the rule of Mystery Babylon, the Templars of the crown in operations. So this is so that you get your concepts correct about a lot of things. When we be telling people, this is not your government. Stop saying my government. They're not your government. They're an occupying force. Are we clear? Occupying hybrid Europeans operating on the land at North America. Now, there are two crowns, quote unquote, that come to mind when the natural people of the land and nations take into consideration their forced peonage suffered under intersocial affairs invoked by hybrid European colonialism. The most poignant anti-humane issues involve the social, the economic, and the political problems that have and do now plague and hinder the human family in these days, especially Aboriginals. Many of the torts, wars, and social, economic, and political abuses and suppressions of note are presently the norm imposed upon among the Aboriginal peoples and are well documented. A sadistic pattern of warring and land grabbing undoubtedly caused by such or much suffering and marks the negative and injurious effects of European colonialization in the Western Hemisphere and across the planet. A major operational source of executing pseudo legal processes for usurpations and annexations of Aboriginal lands is the Crown. One of the crowns, quote unquote, of concern has been the Queen of England and the arbitrary practices related to the popes and the bishopric of Rome, their quote unquote Spanish Inquisition executions, and their inhumane unum sanctum church bulla policy enforcements, etc. The other crown, which is less discussed by the world scholars, is the Crown Temple, quote unquote, Crown Temple, and its past and present membership and operations. Truth needs no apology. The feudal law, governmental, and judicial systems operating within the political, corporate jurisdictions of the United States of America, the following must be known and never forgotten. The quote unquote United States, all capital letters, and its franchise, quote unquote, states of subsidiaries are all, quote unquote, artificial person abstracts and are private, for profit, corporate entities. These constructs are not to be confused with the land, America. The owners and the administrators of these corporate entities are functioning de facto at the federal level, at the state level, states levels, and at the local municipal levels. These U.S. corporate ens legis entity constructs having British Crown colony origins are now owned by the Crown, which is a private and foreign power. Before jumping to conclusions about the Queen of England or about the royal families of Britain owning the United States USA, all capital letters, corporate entity, know that this organized entity operation is a different crown. And this barrister order, quote unquote, BARRISTERORDER, barrister order, is fully exposed and explained below. And we are specifically referencing the established Templar Church, known for centuries by the world as, quote unquote, the Crown. From this point on, we will also refer to the Crown as the Crown Temple, or Crown Templar. And that when one hears about or references any of these forms, it is known that all three attributes are synonymous. The Templar is a member of the Niceno-Constantinopolitan Creed, which is the official name for Christianity, and is a religious and military order that is also called Knights Templars, Knights of the Temple, and Poor Soldiers of the Temple. The religious and military order was founded around 1118 and organized on the land at Jerusalem, an ancient city located at Canaan. Canaan is also known as Palestine. and the area of Jerusalem, as Jerusalem, or of Palestine has since 1948 been politically designated as a part of the contemporary body politic and political state now called Israel. More we'll let you know later. So now you understand the politics and you understand what's going on in the world. So don't be blind and know who your real allegiances are. Have a grand evening. Thank you for sharing with us here at the House of Reawakening Minds.
And I think, if weather permitting, we will have a 4th Friday in-person event in January. So we'll let you know. Yeah. Mm-hmm. We never know what kind of weather we're going to get around here. But so we'll
now.
You know what? One more thing, right? We're not going into more teaching.
No, we're not going to know.
Yeah, because we got to get out of here. But one more thing, I forgot to say to put this up, because it definitely, I have been posting this for a couple months with the wrong date, right?
All right.
So save the date. Our upcoming event here at House of Reawakening Minds. Well, I was putting up, I think we were advertising it as a different date, but it actually is this date. So please make sure that you put that up. I think I put the right one up there. Look, I hope I did. Actually, I think I still got the wrong one up there. Oh my goodness. I'll fix it, y'all. Actually, it's April 26, 27, 28, and not 27, 28, 29. Okay? But we want you to save the date. And first, look, I've never seen that happen. Look, it's showing me Facebook likes and all that stuff. I don't want to see that. Okay, y'all, listen, we're messing up. But April 26, 27, 28, and we have some exciting presenters. I'm excited about, we're still working on some, but we have our keynote. Mm-hmm. And I'm not even going to give you that information yet, but we have our keynote presenter. And I'm excited because a lot of you, I've seen things in there about statehood and nationhood and stuff. Mm-hmm. We have a keynote that is going to probably, make people
share a lot of fundamentals.
Yeah, and show you some receipts and serious stuff for moving forward. That's coming up in April 26, 27, 28. I still got the wrong graphic there, but I just want you to save the date for the 26th of April through the 28th, and plan to be here with us in or at Wilmington. Become a group members, and thank you for all of those of you who are. And you know what we're doing. We're still working on our more B&B, and so 1, 2, or 3 of you all will be able to, get that first come first serve while you're here with a 40% discount. Okay, so we're excited, and we love you, and we out of here. Don't forget, next Tuesday, go to www.houseofreawakeningminds and register so that you can be in the house. Tell somebody we got 10,000 seats set up for y'all. 10,000, yeah, everybody can be on there. So a third of our subscribers can be on there. All right. Mm-hmm. So we look forward to seeing you. I do on Tuesday with Dr. Valentine. We definitely want to see Dr. Phil and listen to him and ask him questions and be enlightened and inspired to then go to his 7-hour webinar on the 14th of January. Register for that. Again, thank you so much. We love you. We out of here. Right. Peace and
Salam.
All that.
Islam. Assalamu alaikum.
We out of here, y'all.
The deeper and deeper I go, I find what it is I should know. 'Cause it's just a matter of time that you'll reawaken your mind. Oh, come with me, come to know and find out what is true. Then you'll know what's in store just for you. No more living a lie. I can look to the sky and say, I'm reawakening minds. Come to know and find out what is truth, yes. then you know what's in store just for you. No more living the lie. I can look to the sky and say, I'm reawakening my